into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
We should have warmed up.
I know, I maybe should have harmonized that. Welcome to sorry, so bad. Welcome to the Hannibal AfterBuzz After Show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Joe Braswell. Clearly cannot sing as well as Stevie Nicks, Tom Petty, or Julia Carley, who I'm joined by on the left.
That was my finest performance to date.
Well, you actually sing.
Oh, well, not
You're actually
just
good.
now.
You're actually good at singing.
But I can be, just not at that moment.
All right, me neither. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us live on YouTube. For those who are already there, Chris Miller, Bridget Shea, Coffee, Jess, I don't know, Beast Wars fan, and all you folks, and everyone else who's joining us live and who's joining us right now. We just watched episode 2 of Hannibal, and it was fantastic. We watched the East Coast feed. So those of you checking us out on the East Coast, we appreciate you. And for those of you who are listening to this after our West Coast watch, hello. I'm glad you just watched a great episode of Hannibal as well. Wow, I don't know. Lots of junk to talk about.
Oh, man.
Hannibal, man. Freaking Hannibal. I don't know where to start. I will start by saying I neglected to mention that Vincenzo Natali directed the premiere last week, and he also directed this episode. And I wanted to just say, and I talked about his work and how amazing he was in that episode, but he, a lot like, just like the groundwork that our guy David Slade has laid out, he is a super awesome sort of horror surrealist. He does this great job. Hannibal has this great tradition of sort of personifying these, whether it's the murders or personifying like what the murderer's thinking or Will's thinking, what Hannibal's thinking. My man Vincenzo, he does a fantastic job with this stuff, like the creepy super close-ups and the backwards walking and the immersion in blood and all that stuff. It still continues, and it's like this sort of surrealist view. It's like this meditation in murder surrealism, which is, in fact, that's a thing.
Oh, it is now.
But it's actually like in some ways it can be kind of slow and boring, but I love it. It's hypnotizing and haunting, and a really wonderful tone that I think David Slade sort of set that tone in seasons 1 and 2. But like it's here, and it's what makes Hannibal Hannibal.
That's exactly. I think you hit it right on the head there. It's hypnotizing, and it always has been. But this season so far, I think maybe, I don't know if it's the location change, just them just in Europe amongst these castles and duomos. It seems a little bit avant-garde, and it's just, I can't tear my eyes away. And I will say, this episode, I know this is a scary show sometimes and a little gory. This one truly felt, to me, like a horror film.
Yeah, it had definitely
like my favorite kind of horror film, too.
It's suspenseful. It definitely had its horror notes, and especially since that we opened with that flashback of last season, which I forgot how intense and gross and scary the whole thing was.
Terrifying.
And I just watched it, not a couple of weeks ago. I watched it, and I watched it now, and I like covered my eyes again like a girl. I'm like, no, not Abigail.
Like, a big fat baby.
And I knew what happened, and I don't do that. But it was really well done, and I just forgot how heartbreaking it was across the board. The heartbreak of Hannibal and Will, the heartbreak of Will watching Abigail go down like that, the blood, the grotesque nature of how he did that.
It was also nice to sort of revisit Hannibal when he's outside of what he calls his person suit.
Right.
Because last episode, in the premiere of season 3, he was back back to his old Hannibal, buttoned up and extremely sophisticated and educated ways.
Except when he was rocking that leather jacket and the motorcycle in the beginning.
I like that.
That was he was cool. He was cool Hannibal then.
That was cool Hannibal.
But yeah, I said that was Mads, but he was doing a thing. That was. I also thought that was a very cool way to open the episode, to sort of remind us, give us context. I think we need that. I think we need that context.
We didn't see Will last episode. We were left hanging. We didn't really know who lived, who died. All we knew was Hannibal's point of view at this moment.
Right.
So it was nice. It was nice to see my Will.
And it was great because we got a full sort of a Hannibal episode to start. I mean, he is the star of the show. He is Hannibal, and then we get a Will Graham episode to sort of bookend the first two. We got to start with these two guys, and I like how this was pretty much exclusively a Will episode, and how last week was exclusively a Hannibal episode. You get to catch up with these two guys. There's way too much story to tell after the bloodbath that ended season 2. To sort of like cram it all into one intercut episode. So I really love the way that Steve Lightfoot and Bryan Fuller decided to sort of tell the Hannibal story and then tell the Will story and then slowly but surely put these pieces together to get them together.
I think it's integral that we have a vague, at least, understanding of their mental state before we see the two of them together. Not that I'm saying I have any idea of what Will's mental state is. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think he knows.
Right.
But to have an understanding of who they are, how they're feeling, so when they do meet, we can root for one or not root for them, or root for them as a couple.
Yeah. As a couple.
Well, not as a couple, but maybe.
I mean, they are, And also, one last thing about just sort of like just the show in general. I'm so glad that that NBC has sort of made the commitment, even though over the summer, to this show as a 13-episode thing, because even though the ratings last year for the premiere dipped a little bit, as we know, they still skyrocket. They still does well on DVR, and it does well on the web, and it does well in DVD sales and streaming. So Hannibal's a giant success internationally. We know this, but I'm so glad they gave the room of that doesn't have the pressure of trying to perform week to week to week. And what it allows Bryan Fuller and the gang to do is to take some space and tell this story. I guess what I'm getting at is these 2 episodes. If you're new to the show, not much happened. Like the first episode, it's kind of where's Hannibal? He's bumping around Europe. You're getting some stuff. Like for fans of the show and for people who are willing to sit down and get this full 13-episode story, we're totally fine. But I can totally see a network having the pressure of like, what's happening? People don't know. You gotta have them kill someone. You gotta have them do something, and they don't have to do that because they have the room to tell the story. This episode, same. A lot of just Will trying to figure ish out. Trying to walk through stuff. The whole episode, like, not a lot happened, but then a lot happened as well. But to take these 2 episodes to tell as a start of the story, like, you're very, very comfortable knowing we have another 11 episodes and it's going to be awesome, as opposed to our old model of television where it's like, if you don't hook people in those first 2 episodes, the shit might get canceled. And this shit's not going to get canceled. We know that.
No.
So I feel good about that. That's my long rant to say I'm glad TV has moved into this direction. I'm glad NBC has made a commitment to this show, because I want them to tell this story like this way. I love the way he's telling the story.
I want it never to end.
All right, so let's get into this episode. So, as we mentioned before, it opened with a flashback of what happened at that horrible evening. The bloodbath, as Bryan Fuller called it. Last season, as he told us, I think he told us and a lot of people, it's going to be a bloodbath. Well, we saw that revisiting of that bloodbath, and we actually saw a continuation of that. We saw the stag imagery, pouring out blood onto the floor, like immersing Will Graham in blood and making him into a literal bloodbath. He was sent down into this blood. Then we have the teacup imagery shattering, and then with a weird Will Graham face on it.
Yes.
And then reconnecting, and then him coming up from rising, like Lazarus or someone, like from the dead, and then coming back to life.
I thought it was interesting that they used very similar imagery in the premiere episode as well as this, of Bedelia drowning. If you remember that, when she tries to maybe possibly drown herself in the bathtub, but just the endless bathtub and endless sinking, and then we see the same thing happening with Will in an endless ocean of blood.
Right.
But both are pulled out for some reason, and I'm imagining that reason is Hannibal.
Yeah, that's a great connection, and I mean it's the same director as I mentioned before, and so that imagery of like sinking back into that and then coming back to
coming back,
great.
and also throughout both episodes we hear that constant little drip.
Yeah,
which I love, and that sort of connects the whole thing, the whole like the slow rising of the tub or slow rising of the ocean that's slowly drowning them.
Sure. So when we see Will, he's back and he's alive, and well, I mean, thank God, we all kind of knew he was going to make it. Again, as we talked about
this table.
As we talked about last season, as Joe Flippo and all of us were kind of like, well, who's going to make it? Who's going to make it? Who's going to live? Who's going to die? None of us thought Abigail was going to make it.
No.
And then when she showed up,
she was the one who was going to be.
We were like, oh my God, Abigail, she made it. She got the patch and everything.
Yes.
And which, then they had that whole bit, he knew just how to cut us, and he did this. And it was so interesting because she was so, her whole demeanor and her whole attitude of like, I want them back. Let's go find them. And let's go do this stuff. And I'm like, is this real? Like, what's happening here?
What is happening? I couldn't wrap my head around it.
We were so confused, right?
It was like, yeah, I'm with you.
And then when he actually got to Italy, and he's hanging out with Inspector Ronaldo, and they're checking this crime scene, and they keep panning over to Abigail. She's got this like smirky grin, like, "Hey, Will, what's going on?"
When you are,
like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, what is happening? But of course, it's revealed that it is not Abigail at all. She's not alive at all. It is Will's subconscious, presumably the part of him that really still loves Hannibal and wants to go and be with Hannibal, presumably. The one is saying, like, that conversation he's having with Abigail is one we can presume he's having with himself, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So that makes much sense.
Also, in his world of reality, if she did exist in his reality, not just in his subconscious, I think it was his vehicle and his excuse to go find Hannibal.
Right.
Whether he's admitting it to himself or not.
Right. Which I love the sort of ambiguity of what is his mission to find Hannibal. Is it sort of like 8 months later he's there, he's tracking Hannibal down, but is this to find him to say, as he did, I forgive you, Hannibal, let's go run off together and be happy? Or is it I'm here to bring you to justice?
I don't think he knows.
Right. Do you think he doesn't know at this point, really?
No, I really don't.
Which is that, do you think that was the reason for the whole Abigail?
I'm also wondering what happened in those 8 months. Was she with him for those 8 months, convincing him that this is the right thing to do, that they have to go find him, they have to go track him down?
You mean like in his head?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe because
the time span is real, whether she is or not.
Right.
So I'm just wondering what happened in those 8 months. It's a very specific amount of time.
Well, I feel like on the steps he had that final sort of reconciliation with his own demons, if you will, be it involving Abigail or his, love for, or whatever for Hannibal, when he says, were we gonna, let's just say everyone lived, which is our first clue that she was dead. He's like, let's say everyone lived that night. I'm like, what do you mean? Everyone didn't live? Oh, so let's say everyone lived last night, and we did go off, and we, where will we go? What is this? Where will we go? It's like he said he had a place for us. Yep. And then that's when Will's like, yeah, no, that's not, Hannibal doesn't do that, and this is not. And then that was it for her.
And then bye-bye.
So do you think that's my cue that he's come to some sort of realization, he snapped out of it, and you're saying you don't know?
Well, I think he now knows that I think she played out her purpose. And now he's there, and he's in the presence of Hannibal, even though they haven't met face to face. He knows it. He feels it. Now it's time to, deal with the matter at hand. Sure. And that's why he's there and what he wants to do there, what he wants to accomplish. But more than anything, I feel like he needs to see him. Yeah.
He needs to see him because he needs to have some sort of completion here. Let's talk about the second sort of, another thing the show does really well is a sort of personification of Will's profiling. Like Will as a profiler, we see his brain working as a profiler. I mean, we had the pendulum device before. We know this is by design. We had all these different devices, and I think that in season 2 turned into this like. During the whole meningitis thing, was it meningitis? Encephalitis. I'm sorry. Meningitis. The deadly meningitis.
Sick disease.
Encephalitis.
Encephalitis. I forget.
That meningitis is a bitch. Let me tell you right now.
Oh, my neck hurts.
during the whole encephalitis scare where he was going a bit crazy, we saw the personification, what was going on in his mind. It was a little warped and everything else. And of course, our favorite thing, the clock, the Salvador Dali clock. What was that? What was the scientific term for that? It was like,
oh God, don't ask me the scientific
disorders. Anyway, but the Salvador Dali clock, when he's like, what time is it? It's 6 o'clock, and it's all that was all great. But this, I guess what I'm getting at is this time, what was happening when the time between he was actually in Italy and he was in the bed and he was having these visions of going back to Hannibal's office and then looking at the clock and it burning and then the papers falling and then like how did you interpret that?
I wasn't exactly sure, but I had an idea that maybe it was his memory palace that we talked about in season 2 that and we referenced in this episode as well, where Hannibal sort of describes his memory palace, which is ultimately what leads Will to that spot in Palermo.
Right.
But maybe that is his memory palace. Maybe that's his sort of calm place, because he was, for the most part, that was a place where he could be himself and have real discussions with someone who really felt he felt and understood him.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I just, I thought it was beautiful. I thought Natalia did a great job of sort of like, creating whatever's going on in Will's mind. I couldn't quite decipher it, and obviously we just watched it in real time 40 minutes ago, so maybe when I watch it again, or I have some people on YouTube and iTunes will be able to talk to me and tell us about how they deciphered that. Even you guys watching now in the chat room, I don't know how you guys deciphered that moment of him looking at the clock and it burning and the things falling, and what part of that led him to Italy. But it was very interesting. I couldn't quite figure that out. The other bit is once he got there, we saw we've had some interesting setups and interesting set pieces in terms of dead people on Hannibal in the last 26 episodes. But the human heart, pun intended, has got to be up there. Cello Neck's at a very close second or third.
Cello Neck still.
Wingback's up there.
Yeah.
Top whatever. Totem pole dude.
The eye of humans.
Oh, the eye of humans. That was elaborate.
That was a good one.
And then the bee lady.
Oh, I like Mushroom Guy.
Oh, Mushroom Man.
Do you know the Mushroom Man?
Mushroom Man was it? Those are all winners. Those are all the top. That's the top 10 hits of Hannibal.
That should be fun. Let's rank them all.
But
Not now.
We should rank them all. But the human heart, the human heart, was pretty ingenious.
Pretty effing nasty.
Yeah, pretty nasty. So we got to see that, and not only do we get to see that, like in all of its glory with the 3 swords and everything else, we saw Hannibal sort of make the paper version of that.
His inspiration.
He's an artist at Hannibal.
He's an artist at heart.
That guy can do it. No pun intended. Artist of hearts. But so he made the heart, and then we see his creation, which in some ways was beautiful, and really grotesquely beautiful.
Yes.
Right. And to see Will go through his, I'm like, please don't do it. Don't deconstruct it, Will. Don't deconstruct it. Sure enough, he starts talking. I skinned. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to know.
Splintered every bone,
making it malleable so I can form
I twisted.
And I'm like, I get it.
Can't look away.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful. It makes me want to puke all at the same time.
Yeah, and so that happened,
and it was all gooey.
Yeah, we saw that.
And skinned.
And you
think that's it? You think that's where it ends?
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Woo! Thanks, guys. Thanks, Bryan Fuller.
And he had to go and touch it.
Thanks, Vincenzo. But then it starts beating, of course, and then he had to touch it, and then it's beating. It's beating away, which is enough. But then it transforms in one of the probably most spectacular Hannibal gross out moments of beauty into unfolds as a human. And then out of this human muscle, it becomes this half human, half stag heart thing.
I can't even. It's so good.
What? It's like marching towards you.
His antlers growing at him.
I'm like, is this? It's 7:30. shit on the West Coast. What's happening? Yeah, I thought that was fantastic.
Oh,
those are
God.
some of the horror elements we're talking about.
Yeah, that was.
What did you make of that, Julia? I was with you, but what did you make of that?
That is what nightmares are made of.
Yes.
First and foremost, I also found it to be absolutely breathtakingly stunning. That's, a little testament to my character right
Sure.
there, that I love stuff like that. I liked that he called it a Valentine of a broken man. I thought that was a beautiful sort of sentiment, since they're both broken men and both their hearts are broken.
Yeah, and dude who's in the heart shape is broken literally.
Yes.
So it's a triple pun.
Then the heart unfolds itself, and it grows into the stag, which has been indicative of both Hannibal and Will throughout these seasons. And the stag has grown, and now the stag is coming back to life, as it's probably been stagnant for the last 8 months. Although we did see it poke through his in his dream.
Another pun.
Through his.
The stag's been stagnant. Go ahead.
God damn it!
You're doing it, not me. Go ahead. I'm just listening. Go ahead.
And then it sort of attacks him and starts to encompass him. I loved how the antlers were growing and sort of sprouting more branches off of it, and just sort of encompassing
they're reaching out
him
for him, like coming at you. And I'm ducking.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really amazing. I thought it was stunning.
And then, what did you make of his reaction when Abigail woke him up? Which is also weird, because that's like an Inception sort of dream within a dream, like Inception style level 1, level 2 dream, because he is literally in a full blown trance, deconstructing this murder in his Will Graham way, and then it gets away from him to where this thing is attacking him, because usually he has control of it. This is my design. I'm Will Graham, and then all of a sudden it starts to attack him. He's like, oh my god, I don't have control of my own thoughts. But someone wakes him up. It's Abigail. Like, oh, thank God you're here, Abigail. I feel great now. But Abigail's not real either.
But that was his moment to let her go.
Right, okay.
So I think that was it, to let her go, to sort of put that behind him and take control of his own psyche as much as he humanly possibly can.
And what did you make of his reaction when he came out of that, which is kind of a laughing, sort of like, no, that Hannibal's a riot, or whatever he said. He was very much like, Hannibal wants us here. What did he say? It was something very like,
I don't know,
mad scientist-ish. It kind of scared me, but
I don't know. Well, the whole thing kind of scared me.
Anyway, so
I think it was him accepting it, understanding Hannibal was there, understanding what his message was, and knowing that, oh man, I'm back in it. Here we go again.
Right.
How are we going to handle this?
Right.
Got to get rid of you, Abigail.
I want to get into the introduction of Inspector Ronaldo was it Pazzi? Piazzi?
It's on my other page.
It's P-A-Z-Z-I, but I can't pronounce his name because
Ronaldo Pazzi. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not Italian.
Isn't he from Happy Days?
Oh.
That's an old guy joke.
Funny now.
Pazzi. All right. But before we do that, I want to take this opportunity because I never do this in time, to thank you guys in the middle of the show for listening to us and downloading us and watching us on iTunes and YouTube. All YouTubers are, you guys have been fantastic. We appreciate you and your loyalty. Last week, we had a hot comment section, man. We had like 89, 90 comments in the comment section. So all of you guys, Lost Sons of Krypton, Sonia Miller, Spider Money, Tina, Hees. Nando's not here to mispronounce these, so I'll do that.
Do your best.
Okay, Muhammad A.M., Melina Torres, of course, Chief of Wakanda, Maliki Oliver, Misha H.J., Buzzard, Beatniks, Michael Big Bots, Gabriel Barreto, Cindy Leon, YouTube, who really loved us.
Oh.
He said, 45 minutes in your view is 40 minutes too much. He's talking about you. Clearly it's me, but thank you anyway. Thanks for watching. Raquel Costa, Andy Biasi, Jake Masters, Hannibal Lecter himself even had a comment.
Thanks, buddy. That frightens me.
J60667B, Abdul Rahim, Abdul Hattab, Yeah, Serene, God, Arcane. I want to get all these folks in. I'm sorry, because Peggy Stickley, Jesus Christ, Genial Idiot, MX5, H Hong, I said her, and Night Warrior. Oh my God, a lot of folks. Don Carbone, Anita Pace, Cesar Gonzalez,
Holy
and
cannoli.
KMCC. Thank you all for getting in the chat room last week. I just want to shout everyone out, because we don't do it all the time. I appreciate you, and the folks who are in there now, we appreciate you as well. And then I'll talk to you guys in 1 second. And also, last but not least, last but not least on iTunes, Fiction Boy, thanks for rating us this week. Please, all you guys who follow us on YouTube, we appreciate it too. It's also great to go to iTunes and rate us on iTunes.
Yes.
We were number one at AfterBuzz for a second, and we're still top 3 or 4, but it helps other people find the show when you go to iTunes and you rate us. But we appreciate you doing that, and thank you very much for all of that. And please continue to do so. We love you. Podcast 1. I don't know what that means. I'm so sorry. Is there a live read? Do I have a live read? Is this a live read that's in front of me right now? Okay. Oh, podcast 1.
Oh.
The survey. Here you go, Julia.
I'll read it.
Julia has a live read.
All right, here we go. Podcast 1. So we love hearing from you, so keep on sending your tweets and comments. We do read every single one of them, this I swear. And don't miss the chance to take our very important listener survey at podcast1.com. Your responses will help us to make the show the very best it could be.
You're good.
And it'll only take about 3 minutes of your time, and you'll get the instant gratification that comes with knowing that you helped us out. It is gratifying, isn't it? You can tell us how you really feel, good or bad, about the show and help us get to know you better. So do it now, please. Well, after the show. Do it after the show. And take the survey at podcast1.com, and that's podcast1.com. That's podcast and O-N-E. And keep those tweets coming and comments too. We really appreciate it. Like he said.
That was one hell of a live read.
Thank you kindly.
I'm going to try it again.
That was a cold
I'm going to try it too. Thank you. Good
that
cold
was
read.
as cold as it gets.
Also, I want to remind you guys or tell you guys, if you guys listen to AfterBuzz, you know about this, but there's a new show called Dance Battle America. It's ABC's new competition special. It's actually brought to you from our very own AfterBuzz founder and host and friend of ours, Maria Menounos, and Juliana Hoff from Dancing with the Stars. It's a new special. ABC Dance Battle. It's coming during the holiday seasons. I'm sorry. During the holiday seasons over the last 2 years, Juliana and Maria have engaged in some fearsome dance battles via social media. If you guys haven't seen these,
they're hysterical.
They're hysterical. They're Christmas and over the holidays. They tape a bunch of stuff. Dance battles at Maria's house. It's really fun and funny. Once the channel took off, celebrities like Kate Hudson and Amber Riley joined in, and the dance battle craze began. Cold read. Now the ladies are challenging everyone in America to battle it out for a chance to fly to Los Angeles and compete on the dance show. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. If you want a chance to dance on network television, go to dancebattleamericacasting.com. That's www.dancebattleamericacasting.com for more information on how to submit your video. And don't forget to post it on social media using the hashtag DanceBattleABC.
You know who should do that, Braz?
Who?
You should. This dude's got some moves.
Oh, I got moves from like 1992.
I've seen those moves too. I saw that video.
Those moves, man. And I tell you what, I was fresh in 1995.
He really was.
I will outdance everyone, and Maria knows. I'll outdance Maria and Juliana. Actually, never mind, forget it. Derek Hoff I danced against Derek Hoff at Maria's birthday party, right. And we had a dance battle, and it lasted 30 seconds. Maybe 45, maybe 30, and I lost. He killed me. Well, so there you have it.
He is a pro.
Back to Hannibal. Thanks for doing that whole. Thanks for those live reads and everything else, and thanks for watching again.
Yes.
So let's get back to the introduction of a Hannibal mythology and Hannibal universe, Hannibal canon favorite, Inspector Rinaldo Piazzi. Those of you who are fan of the books know him from Hannibal, and those of you fan of the movies know him from Hannibal the movie as well. He makes his appearance here. Seems like a little modified storyline in that he is a profiler inspector. He's more of a profiler, kind of like Will Graham.
He's a Will. He's an Italian Will.
Exactly. Who has been hot on the case of this monster of Florence.
Il mostro.
The monster of Florence, who did this great thing. Like he was studying this Botticelli. How do you say it?
The Botticelli. The Primavera.
The Primavera, and he made this life. He posed these two dead people, just like the Primavera, which was actually
just
also
like two of the
main figures in the Primavera, right? Which was actually also beautiful in a scary,
as it often is,
two dead people way.
Is his art ever ugly?
No. And then, of course, he then saw this young guy at the museum continually, obsessively sketching over and over and over again perfectly the entire Primavera, especially those two characters. And he then realized that that's my killer. I'm going to get him. But, of course, Hannibal leaves no evidence. And he never got him. And he's been chasing this mysterious man ever since.
And he's been haunted.
And now his chance to make it happen. Do you know? Do you remember like what happens to him in the books in the movie?
I don't.
Okay, I do. But I'll tell you.
I think actually
Well, we'll
talk about it.
We'll get it in a second. I'll get it in a second.
I think I do.
It's not really a spoiler alert, but it's not pleasant.
Yep.
But before we get to that, the question I have for you is, what did you make of him and his introduction? Assuming you don't remember him from the books or the movie, how did you think he fit into the Hannibal television universe in Canada, right?
I think he's a great introduction and a great ally. I don't know if he'll be an ally, but a great sounding board, at least for Will. He also seems to be bringing something out of Will that I don't think Will knew was there. I think he's sort of helping Will find his true purpose in being there, in questioning him and forcing him sort of to help him.
Do you think that how do you think he perceives Will? Because there's a lot of great dialogue, a lot of back and forth. Do you think that he thinks that Will is there to bring Hannibal in? Does he think that Will is there to join Hannibal? Does he think that Will is there because he doesn't know why he's there? Does he think Will is a killer? Like, how is he trying to figure the whole thing out? Like, he carries himself like he's one step ahead, but at the same time, simultaneously, he carries himself like he's investigating and being inquisitive.
If he was one step ahead, he wouldn't be waving a gun down in the catacombs. Even I know better. You ain't gonna catch Hannibal that way.
Talk about not knowing better. How about not go bumping around the freaking catacombs?
How about it?
But whatever. We'll get to that. We'll get to that later. But but really, this whole back and forth they were having. Talk about a chicken egg me. Like the question he asked, was the body here because. Was the body here because...
Are you here because of the body, or is the body here because of you?
That's the ultimate chicken egg me. That was dope. And I was like, what is it?
That's a fine question.
but this is my...
the best face you've ever made.
I don't know. But this is my point. Like, makes me wonder about what is he in this process too, trying to figure this out with Will, or does he already know?
I don't think he knows, but I think there's a level of desperation to him that this is 20 years in the making, and Il Mostro has finally showed his face again. Mm-hmm. This is his vehicle. This is a personal connection, and I think he's willing to put Will on the line and use him any way that he can, no matter what his capacity, in order to get to Il Mostro.
Okay,
I think it's been his passion and his
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot of information there. I really like him. I really like him as a character. I'm really interested to see, how they utilize this character in this season and how long he hangs around.
Do you think Will wants him there? Because Will,
that's a good question. Is it like, dude, this is my beat. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Or he's my Hannibal. Or is it like, I'm the profile. There's only room for one profiler here, pal.
Because Will got a little menacing down there in the catacombs when he told him to get out. Oh, I don't know if it's jealousy.
Okay.
Hannibal never sent him a broken man heart.
Yeah, that's right. He never, Inspector Ronaldo
but
never got a broken man heart. But I think
he may think, like, dude, you are so in over your head, you have no idea what you're dealing with. Just get out of here and let me deal with it. Right. Because you're going to die if you stay here, and I don't really care.
There was that. Yeah, it's like, you're going to die, so you're in over your head. This is how it's going to end for you, so beat it.
I'm here for a purpose. We have a connection.
Right. Like, I'm not just some run-of-the-mill gumshoe. Yeah. Like, I gotta, this guy, we're in love. I keep saying that. I keep, like, I said.
There's some broken heart Valentine.
Well, yeah, like we talked about this all the time. The bromance versus the romance. Like Bryan Fuller calls it a bromance. I call it a romance. And Brian's like, maybe it is. But, they're in love. I don't know.
They're in love.
Well, yeah. I don't think it's any secret. No. I want to get back to, before we get to the catacombs and get to the appearance of Hannibal, like sort of lurking in the shadows of the. Now, there's that one shot of where he looks up and it's revealed that Hannibal's in the church watching the whole time, and he's sort of framed perfectly with the angel. Was that God or was that an angel? I don't know. I don't know my cat thought.
I was writing a note and you said, "Are those wings?"
Well, he's framed in the window. The Hannibal dips out, and then there's a guy there with a white beard, and I see my Catholicism, my Roman, ancient Roman Catholicism is bad, and I don't know if that is one of the saints. I don't know if that was somebody
You're
else.
Asking the wrong girl. Let's ask the internet.
Internet, please help me on that. Please. Who was that in the window? When Hannibal, but whoever it was a great shot. It was a great sort of reveal and a great shot of Hannibal sort of being there and sitting there and then actually finding out that.
Always watching.
Anyway. All right, so there's that. And then, but also, before we get to the catacombs, I do want to talk about and ask, the reveal. We talked about the reveal that Abigail is dead, and so after we find that, then we kind of see what really happened. We see what actually happened. We have that we see Will seeing her being zipped up and carried away, so the confirmation that she actually is dead. And then they carried her away. Then we had that sort of wonderful juxtaposition of Will being sewn up and patched up, and her being sort of like
having an autopsy.
Autopsied, and maybe it looks like I guess it was autopsy. But because organs were taken out.
They weigh them.
They're doing stuff, and junk was in her eye.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either, but apparently that's what they do.
I've never done an autopsy.
I never had an autopsy done on me.
I did once.
At one time? How'd it work out for you?
It was college.
All right. It's wild times. Maybe it's Lucifer? I don't know. Okay. The autopsy was rough. So, so anyway, that was a very cool, sort of another cool scene, and more cool imagery. I just wanted to acknowledge that. So, again, leaving us.
That was also quite gruesome. There was a level that I found that to be more gruesome than the gratuitous.
Heart. Yeah,
because it was real life. That really happens.
It's like cut,
that was
cut,
real
cut,
skin
stab,
being,
stab.
Yeah.
So.
Blah, blah, blah.
I'm like, I get it.
It's still happening.
It's still going on. Thanks, Vincenzo. We get it. No, but yeah, that was still very cool. Again, very cool. So she's dead, right? I mean,
I'm going to say she is dead.
Now, Abigail is, Bridget Shea just mentioned that Abigail's a great character, and she is fantastic, and she's so great that they keep bringing her back in visions, and that she's in the stream, and then she's this. Where we see her in this episode. Hopefully, maybe if we're lucky, they'll keep bringing her back as like some sort of vision as well for Will.
Or maybe just an element of his conscience, his subconscious.
Because she is great. It's great to see her.
Yeah, it is great to see her.
All right, so let's get to the catacombs. So this is what I don't quite understand. Like they dip down into the catacombs, like Will presumably to find Hannibal because he looks at the door and there's blood coming from the floor, and his spidey senses tingle, and he's like, I'm gonna peace out to the catacombs. So he goes down there, and then Inspector Ronaldo's like, I'll follow Will. This is what happens?
Yes, that's what I believe happened.
So Will's in the catacombs, and he's like, Hannibal. Like, is this what?
Yeah, pretty much.
We just watched this.
Pretty much, yes.
Bone Railing Catacombs, and then they have that conversation with Ronaldo and says, you need to scram.
Yeah, because you're going to die. It's not going to end well for you.
And he doesn't. And then, so talk about that weird menacing moment where he's like, okay, then I'll see you later, and he pieces out into the shadows. But Will, what was that? Why did Will do that?
I think Will is feverishly close to Hannibal, and he knows it. And this is a moment where he's like, "Scram, get out of here! Seriously, dude! Like this is my moment.
Right.
This this is my moment. I have something to tell him, because I feel like he had something to tell him, which he did at the very end when he said, I forgive you.
Right.
Because he felt his presence there. He knew he was there. But Ronaldo, the inspector did, it was Ronaldo, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Did say something very interesting when he turned to Will, menacing Will, and asked him, or something to the effect of, are you already dead? Or you're already dead, aren't you?
Right.
So that was an interesting moment for me. I was wondering if the old Will Graham, the old profile Will Graham, is dead and he's being called out on it. I don't know. What did you think about that?
I think that the Will Graham I think that Ronaldo believes that the Will Graham that once existed pre-Hannibal is dead, and this is a weird post, that the old you is dead. I don't know who this new guy is, but the old you is dead. So, I don't know if that means he thinks he's a murderer, if he thinks he's in league with Hannibal. I don't know.
But maybe he's just checking Will on that. Like, hey, buddy, I see it, and I just met you.
Like, I'm about to die. You're already dead, fool. Like, don't tell me who's dead. I'm Ronaldo. Chicken egg. All right. So, but then there's that final cool moment. Well, there's a couple things. So there was the calling out of each other. Then you're already dead. And then there's a moment where Will reaches out and says, I forgive you. Right? Is that what he says? Do you think was that like him really genuinely saying, I forgive you? And was that real, or was that like him trying to draw Hannibal out?
Well, one of the very last things Hannibal said to him is, I forgive you, Will. Will you forgive me? As he's sitting there bleeding, dying. Abigail's bleeding, dying.
For,
Yes. So I think it was a
nice
genuine
bookend.
I forgive you. Yep.
Okay. So I forgive you, stab, cut, and then I forgive you too, stab, cut.
Yeah.
One last thing that it's interesting to me, and we got to get out of here. But one last thing is, it reminded when Abigail told Will that he knew just how to cut us. That's why we're both alive. I guess that meant for Will, because in other words, he did. Because Abigail was pretty much now that's he's got to be a real freaking surgeon to not kill Abigail. But maybe with Will, like that, even though it was a horrible.
If he had cut any deeper, all of his organs would have spilled out, and I don't really think there's much coming back from that.
Right.
I watch Grey's Anatomy.
Sure.
I'm almost a doctor.
You're certified.
But I think he
that show's realistic, by the way. That show's 100% realistic. 10 years. All right. So did Hannibal want Will to live? Is the question.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this is also the stab. Nobody wanted him to live, and that really happened.
Yes.
Okay, good.
That's my belief. I could be so wrong, but that's my belief.
All right. So that happened. That was the episode.
That was an awesome episode.
It was an awesome episode.
It felt like the fastest episode ever.
Yeah, it was pretty fast. It was fast, especially since it just happened. It hasn't even happened here on the West Coast. So
lucky
still
West
not for another
Coast.
hour. Watch it again in another hour. Let's do some predictions and get out of here.
Yeah.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
Before I get into predictions, there is a great interview that popped up with Hugh Dancy on Variety.
Oh, that's really good.
And on Variety.com. Check that out. So it talks to him about sort of Will Graham's season 3 quests and sort of gives some thoughts in there. There's also links into Bryan Fuller's interview from last week, which I may or may not have referenced, which was also very good. So please check those out. Variety is all over it, and that's very cool. All right, so predictions. I'm going to call on you, Julia. You're going first this week. What do you got? Predict me something.
Predict you something? Chicken egg me? Oh gosh. I predict that next episode. What?
So predicmatize me is my joke. It's a bad one.
It's a good one, actually.
Go ahead.
I predict that there will be a level of giddiness to Hannibal in this next episode. I don't think it's going to begin with them meeting face to face, but maybe end with them meeting face to face. I think he's going to enjoy sort of luring Will in, and I think Bedelia is sort of going to get on that bandwagon as well. I don't know if she, again, like I said last year, how about last week? I think she has it in her. I think Will has it in him. I really don't have a prediction, let's be honest. I think
It's all right.
that's what I think.
Somebody's in somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, I got nothing.
All right. I just, it's a soft, but it's a prediction on sort of the how the next 7 are going to go, which is, I think that every week before, back in the procedural days of Hannibal, we'd get a murder of the week, or we're chasing something, or a body of the week. I think we're still going to get the same thing. I think the device for them to be able to do that is it's going to be Hannibal leaving these clues for Will in the form of these bodies. So I think that Hannibal will continue to kill and eat, and then leave something for Will. Now, of course, you can't trace it. Will find it. I think those clues will lead them closer and closer to Hannibal, which will ultimately bring them to a confrontation. I'm very interested to see how Jack comes back. We see him in the previews. Spoiler alert, but he's in the previews. Whether this is he's not confirmed that he's alive, but whether it's I
think he has a very fair shot of surviving that.
I do, based on the books. I think he does too.
I think he does.
And that's all I got. So I predict that we're going to see some bodies and some more clues. And I still don't know what side Bedelia's on. We'll find out.
I don't know, but I think she's going to be doing some luring of her own.
Yes, I agree. I think she's part of this too. Joe Sanfilippo is out of town. Dua Casey was going to join us, but she is going to join us for sure next week. So we should have a full panel next week. We're very excited about that. And I don't know, man. I think that's it, right?
I think so.
Julia, where can the kids find you?
Kids, you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram with my name, which is Julia Cearley, JuliaCearley. So go ahead and follow me, please.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Periscope.
I don't even know what that is. I'm so not cool.
How could you not know what Periscope is?
Drop a pin.
Oh, Jesus. I'll be on Periscope. I should have been Periscoping right this very second, but I'll be Periscoping. I'm going to Periscope right now after this live feed.
Why don't you teach me how to Periscope right after this?
All right. At Joe K. Braswell on all those. Thank you again for joining us on iTunes and YouTube. Thanks for all of you guys who are watching right now. Goodbye to you folks, Olivia Smith, Beast Wars fan, and the like. And we'll see you next week with a full panel. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.